Well, this is a very typical young broody hen. I've got plenty of these in the garden at the moment, and I thought I'd talk about broodies because getting it right is quite difficult, because until you've had a broody actually hatch and raise chickens, you don't know how good she's actually going to be as a mother, because a lot of hens actually like going broody, just going broody and sitting on eggs, because as with the case of this young hen here, it improves her status in the flock, and she knows that. And it's quite a good life. She's there sitting on eggs all day. She doesn't have to do anything. But what happens if you leave your broody hen in the hen house, then what she does, unfortunately, she's blocking up your nest boxes, because what she's going to do is collect all the eggs that get laid, and she's going to also annoy the hens who go in to lay. So if I've got a broody and I want her to stay broody, I will separate her from the rest of the hens. So you'll want to have your broody, when you've decided you're going to set eggs, you want to have your broody away from the other hens, because the hens will go and lay with your broody, and then that'll confuse which eggs are the ones that you're actually having to sit on and which eggs are the ones which you want to eat. And if they get left and you get too many eggs altogether, what happens as well is that they will all hatch on different days, so that's a bad thing too. And you'll notice here that when a hen goes broody, she gets very, very nervous, and that's what makes her aggressive with the hens too. And it's a good thing to handle these hens quite a bit, so that if later you get a problem when the eggs hatch, you really want to have a hen that's tame. So here's a good example of a hen that just loved being broody, loved sitting on eggs, and then when it came to the time when she actually hatched a couple of eggs, she just wasn't interested in the babies at all, and in the event I had to take the babies off her because she just didn't look after them. And that's something I always do when I'm going to hatch eggs, is I always have another broody ready, just in case something happens, and then she can take over. Anyway, I didn't give up with her because she was very young when this happened, and it's a good job I didn't, because this is what happened the next time. Good job we did try again with her, because she's hatched 5 little beautiful Cochin Chinese chicks. They aren't her own chicks, they're some eggs that a friend got for me of hers, and she's superb with them. The first time when it happened, when she was no good with the chicks, she was, as I say, very, very young hen who was very fond of going broody, and she's absolutely brilliant with these chicks. This is their 3rd day out free ranging in the big garden with all the other big hens, and she's just wonderful with them. So if you've got a hen like Chocolatine, who I showed you earlier, blocking up your nest boxes because she's broody in them and getting a bit vicious, and the other hens get a bit worried about that, then what happens is they'll do what we call laying away, which means they'll go elsewhere, and often they'll go out into the garden, go under the hedge, go everywhere and hide eggs. Now that's bad because you're not getting any eggs to eat, but there's a run on from that, is that they'll build up a large amount of eggs, and then somebody will find them and sit on them. And this is what exactly happened in the case of Bubble here, who disappeared for a few days. I couldn't find her, but I heard her around and I saw her in the morning, so I knew she was okay, but I just couldn't find where she was sitting on. I knew she'd be sitting on eggs and I couldn't find her. And the problem you're going to have, I mean, my hens are very tame, so I can usually, they trust me, so I can move them and I can touch the chicks, everything. But the problem you have is how to move a hen when she's out under a hedge like this one was, move her with her eggs to a safe place. I believed she was okay because we have an enclosed garden, so she'd be okay, but you really want to move them before they hatch. The time to move them is when they are hatching, because when you can see they're starting to hatch or hear they're starting to talk to her, she's going to stay with those eggs. If you move her before that time, you've got to be very careful, because otherwise she will desert the eggs. She'll then go back. What she'll do is she'll go back and look for the eggs in the place where you took her from with the eggs in the first place. But Bubble was brilliant. I couldn't believe how wet she was. She'd sat on these eggs and we had the most horrendous storms, and although she was under the hedge, she was still very, very wet, and I was amazed these actually hatched. And this had a knock-on effect, these babies, because Bubble is Squeaky's favourite hen, and in fact there's a big probability that these are actually Squeaky's babies. And if you've seen my film on Squeaky, you'll know that he was very depressed, having been deposed from the hen house, and he's got a new lease of life now because every day he's out in the garden with Bubble and these two babies.